Hello and welcome to Graphing Quadratics. Today we're going to look at how we can use the zero product property to help us, if we're given an equation, to get all the information together. The first thing is that the zero product property says that if A times B equals 0, if two things are multiplied together to equal 0, then one or the other has to equal 0. Either A equals 0 or B equals 0. You can put that in your notes. The next part here is if we have this equation, let's kind of walk through what we can do. How do you write this as a product? Remember, to write it as a product, essentially we need to factor it. We need to change this because right now this is a sum, and we need to change this so that we can write it as a product. Remember how we do that? We've got our 2x squared and our 30 starts here. We multiply those, and that is 60x squared. In the middle term, negative 16x goes in the bottom. So what we want to figure out is what things multiply to be positive 60x and also add up to be negative 16x. That's going to be negative 10x and negative 6x, so those go here. Remember that these two corners multiplied should equal these two corners multiplied. Now from here, I'll find the greatest common factors. Let's pull out a 2x and an x. That makes my 2x squared. Then I need something to multiply here to make negative 10x. I think that's going to be negative 10. Something here to make negative 6x is negative 3. And check it, do these multiply to be 30? Yes, they do. Good. So my answer here, what I should write down is I need to use the area model and the diamond to factor, so that my factored form now is going to be 2x minus 10 and 1x minus 3. So now I have written this, changed it from a sum to a product. And that helps me because when I'm trying to figure out the x-intercepts, remember the x-intercepts are the x values when y is 0. So what I really need to do here is let y equal 0 in my factored form. Set y equal to 0, and then use the zero product property to find the x value that makes each part equal to 0. So now I just have to figure out what makes this equal to 0 and what makes this equal to 0. Because one of those two things has to equal 0. In this one, if I add 10 and divide, x equals 5. In this one, x equals 3. So my x-intercepts aren't just 5 and 3. They are 5, 0, and 3, 0. Because those are coordinates. When y is 0, x is 5. When y is 0, x is 3. How do you figure out the y-intercepts? Well, remember, if the x-intercepts we find by making y 0, then we can find the y-intercepts by making x 0. Let x be 0, equal to 0, and find y. This is always the constant. So if I go back up to my original equation, if I put in 0, that would make the 0 minus 0 plus 30. So that's going to equal 30. And it's always going to be this last number, this constant. So in this case, when x is 0, y is 30. Okay. How do you figure out the x part, or the x coordinate, of the vertex? So at this point, I have a graph, and I have a little bit of information. I know that the x-intercepts are 3 and 5. And I know that the y-intercept, let's just go up here, let's just call this 30. I'm not going to count 30 of them. That's what I have so far. The last part I need is a vertex. And it has an x and a y coordinate, right? So I need to find the x part of it, and that's going to be wherever the middle of this parabola is going to be. So I find the average of those x-intercepts. The average, the middle of 3 and 5, is going to be 4. So that tells me the x part of this quadratic is at 4. And I wrote down here, find the average of the x-intercepts. The average of those will work. So I add them up, divide by 2. The x part is going to be 4. Now I need to find the y part, because I don't know how high or how low this is. It looks like it might be right about here, but I'm not really sure. So the way to find that is, let's let x be 4. Basically, we'll make a little table and say, when x is 4, what is y? Let's go back up here to the start. When x is 4, that would give me 4 squared, which is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. 16 times 4 now is 64, plus 30. 32 minus 64 is negative 32. And when you add those, that's going to give me negative 2. So when x is 4, y equals negative 2. So the y part of the vertex, I plug in the x part of to the equation to find y. So that gives me 4, negative 2. And now I can finish drawing my graph. It looks something like that. Hope that helps you to find how to graph quadratics. Have a great day.